Every day, politicians use a powerful tool that many people don't even notice: fear. It's not just about scary headlines or crisis events. It's about how fear can be used to control, persuade, and win votes. Here's a shocking fact: during the 2016 US presidential election, nearly 70% of political ads were based on fear. Politicians know that when people are afraid, they are more likely to act quickly, sometimes without thinking. But it doesn't stop there. Fear can make us vote against our best interests or give up freedoms without realizing it. In fact, studies show that fear-based messaging can increase voter turnout by 10%. That's how powerful fear is. So, how do politicians make us afraid? And why do we let them get away with it? In this video, we'll explore how fear is used as a strategy, from making us panic during a crisis to using history to manipulate our emotions. You'll learn how the media helps spread this fear and why it's so hard to break free from it. By the end, you'll see how fear-driven politics affects not just our votes, but our everyday lives. Stick with us as we uncover the hidden tactics politicians use to keep us anxious, and how we can fight back. Chapter 1: The Art of Panic. Fear as a political weapon. Fear is a powerful tool in the hands of politicians. When people are scared, they tend to act emotionally, not logically. Politicians know this and use fear to create urgency and push their agendas. They often craft narratives that make the public feel unsafe, vulnerable, or threatened. A key strategy here is exaggeration, blowing up small issues into national crises. Politicians may use dramatic language, painting a picture of a society on the brink of collapse if their policies aren't followed. For instance, when a political leader tells you that the very future of our nation is at risk, it's meant to spark anxiety. Fear-based rhetoric also keeps the public glued to news cycles, where politicians can continue to feed them their narrative. According to a study from the University of California, fear-based ads during election seasons increase voter turnout by 10%. This shows how politicians capitalize on anxiety to rally voters. It's not about facts or reality, but about shaping perception. Fear is often used to justify extreme policies, even those that might strip away personal freedoms. It creates a sense of us versus them, dividing citizens along lines of danger and protection. Chapter 2: From Crisis to Control. The Fear Manipulation Playbook. Crises are a goldmine for politicians looking to manipulate fear. When something major happens, be it a terrorist attack or an economic crash, the public's anxiety skyrockets. Politicians capitalize on this panic by presenting themselves as the solution. During times of uncertainty, leaders can convince people that only they have the answers. In the aftermath of 9/11, President George W. Bush used fear to push through the Patriot Act, which gave the government sweeping surveillance powers. The act passed quickly, with few questioning the implications for privacy. This is one of the most well-known examples of how fear is used to control. Research shows that crises often lead to a surge in approval ratings for leaders, even if their actions are questionable. According to a Gallup poll, Bush's approval ratings spiked by 40% right after the attacks. In the wake of crises, politicians often bypass the usual checks and balances, framing emergency measures as necessary for national survival. In times of fear, the public is less likely to ask questions, allowing leaders to increase their power. Chapter 3: The Fear Economy. How anxiety drives votes. Fear doesn't just shape policies, it drives the economy, too. When people are anxious, they tend to be more risk-averse. This impacts how they spend money, invest, and vote. Politicians know that by amplifying concerns over the economy, immigration, or security, they can push voters into a more defensive mindset. They present themselves as the only ones who can protect the public from economic collapse or foreign threats. Research shows that anxiety can lead to a 30% increase in donations to political campaigns that promise stability and protection. It's not just about issues, it's about making people feel like their way of life is at stake. This fear can make voters cling to familiar political figures who promise to maintain the status quo, even if that means stagnation. The result is often a cycle of fear-driven voting patterns. Studies have also shown that fear of economic decline makes people more likely to vote for populist candidates, who promise to address these anxieties. It's a tactic that's been used for generations, from the Cold War era to the modern-day immigration debate. If you're finding this interesting, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on how fear shapes politics. Chapter 4: The Ghost to the Past. Using historical trauma to fuel fear. Politicians often resurrect historical traumas to stoke fear. This technique is effective because it taps into collective memories, fears and resentments that run deep. By invoking past wars, economic crashes, or political instability, politicians remind people of dangers that have long been overcome, but still feel fresh. One of the most famous instances is the use of Nazi imagery during political campaigns, particularly in Europe. These references trigger emotional reactions that bring people back to the fear of past events. In the US, certain political leaders have used the threat of communism to stir up fear of social unrest. According to political theorist Arendt, fear of the other is often created by referencing historical enemies. Even in modern politics, the use of historical fear helps simplify complex problems. Politicians say, "We don't want to repeat the mistakes of the past," implying that their policies are the only path forward. This kind of rhetoric often results in sweeping changes that are justified by the fear of history repeating itself. The key here is to make the public feel that, without action, the same terrible outcomes are inevitable. Chapter 5: Media and the Fear Factory. How news amplifies political anxiety. The media plays a huge role in amplifying political fear. Sensationalist headlines and 24-hour news cycles thrive on fear. Media outlets often prioritize dramatic stories, whether they're about crime, terrorism, or economic disasters, because these stories get views. According to a study by the Poynter Institute, bad news tends to be more shareable, and that's exactly what politicians need to create a climate of fear. Politicians then use these stories to justify their policies or actions, playing on the fear generated by the media. The fear cycle between media and politics is a feedback loop. The more anxious the public becomes, the more politicians push policies that promise safety, and the more the media reports on these solutions. Data shows that 60% of Americans feel that the news increases their fear of crime, even though actual crime rates have dropped. This disconnect shows how effective fear-driven media narratives are in influencing public perception. Politicians rely on this heightened anxiety to push through legislation without much scrutiny. Chapter 6: Fearless Future. Can we break the cycle of anxiety-driven politics? Despite how entrenched fear-driven politics is, there's hope. Studies have shown that when people feel more connected to their community and less isolated, they're less susceptible to fear-based manipulation. Psychologists argue that promoting empathy and critical thinking can reduce the emotional power of fear in political decision-making. One of the most effective ways to break the cycle is by promoting fact-based, compassionate dialogue that encourages understanding rather than division. For example, in countries where politicians focus on inclusivity and social cohesion, the public is less likely to fall for fear-mongering tactics. In Denmark, political campaigns focus on unity and shared values, and their citizens report lower levels of political anxiety. On the other hand, the rise of social media has made it easier for fear-driven messages to spread like wildfire, complicating efforts to create a more rational, fear-free environment. Some believe that the key to change lies in strengthening local communities and fostering political transparency. If we can learn to trust each other and stop seeing the world as one big, dangerous place, maybe we can break free from the cycle of fear. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more about the ways politics shape our world, make sure to subscribe and stay informed.